While Nvidia is the GPU market leader, if you wish to use Linux for gaming, AMD is recommended by most. In this video I'm gonna compare if the 9070 XT can match the 5080 in Linux, a GPU that is around 60% more expensive. I want to emphasize that the 9070 XT is not the direct competitor to the 5080, but let's see what it can do in Linux while gaming. For testing, I'm gonna use the Gigabyte RTX 5080 Gaming OC and the PowerColor Red Devil 9070 XT. For this comparison, at the time of testing, I used the latest beta drivers for Nvidia AMD GPUs in Linux, the 590.44 for the 5080 and the Mesa 26.1 for the AMD GPU. When it comes to the translation layer, I went with ProtonG, configured game mode and enabled it in Steam. As always, I will show the settings used for testing before each side-by-side run. I have tested only at 1440p and 4K, included RT games as well, and used upscaling. Let's start with Counter-Strike 2. At 1440p using custom settings, the 5080 is ahead by around 20% when it comes to the averages, but the gap shrinks to around 10% when we look at the 1% low value. Keep in mind that this game runs native in Linux. Warhammer 3 is a DirectX 11 game, and using these settings at 1440p, we can see that the Nvidia GPU is ahead by around 9%. Increasing the resolution to 4K and keeping the same settings sees no change in the performance gap, and the AMD GPU trails the more expensive Nvidia GPU by around 9%. Another Unreal Engine game is Silent Hill F, and at 1440p using upscaling, we can see that the 9070 XT is ahead by 16% when it comes to the averages, and close to 40% when we consider the 1% low values. When we move to 4K, again with upscaling, both GPUs deliver the same averages, but the 1% low values are better on the 9070 XT. I benchmarked Ratchet & Clank with ray tracing enabled only, and at 1440p using these settings, the 5080 is ahead by 16% when it comes to the averages and by almost 9% when we consider the 1% low values.
She jumped up and walloped that secret gate so hard.
Increasing the resolution to 4K sees the gap increasing to around 45% in favor of the 5080, at least when it comes to the averages.
Mort's limeade recipes slowly coming along.
The last game that I want to mention is Indiana Jones, a Vulkan API game. I tested this game using path tracing and some aggressive upscaling, and at 1440p, the 9070 XT delivers around 57% less performance than the 5080 for both averages and the 1% low values. When I increase the resolution to 4K, again with aggressive upscaling so I don't run into VRAM issues, the 9070 XT is delivering 83% less frames when opposed to the 5080. Path tracing is not AMD's strong point, not even in Linux. And here is the 1440p chart. The biggest gap that we can see in this chart in favor of the in a path tracing game. With that said, the Nvidia GPU still does well in Counter-Strike 2, Warhammer 2 and Ratchet & Clank. But the gap is small and the price difference is still big. And here's the chart where we can see how the 9070 XT behaves when we have the 5080 as a baseline. Now the 4K chart. What stands out is the fact that in the ray tracing and path tracing games tested, the gap between the 9070 XT and the 5080 has increased. With that said, here is the chart with all the percentage difference where, again, I took the 5080 performance as the baseline. I would say that the 9070 XT is competitive when compared to the 5080, but when we use ray tracing, the 5080 still delivers more performance. If you wish to use path tracing, Nvidia is the obvious choice, as the performance difference is in line with the price difference. And this is what I want to emphasize. The 9070 XT trades blows with the 5080 in non-ray tracing games, is somewhat close in some ray tracing games, while it falls short when path tracing is in the mix. Keep in mind that most ray tracing and path tracing games available are tailored around Nvidia hardware, so seeing the small performance difference at 1440p in Ratchet & Clank was a surprise. Also, the 5080 has a big bandwidth advantage over the 9070 XT, and this becomes more irrelevant at higher resolutions. Nvidia still needs to improve their drivers for DirectX 12 games, as in Vulkan games it is on par with Windows. On the AMD front, Mesa drivers tend to deliver performance close to Windows in games, but is behind Windows in ray tracing and DirectX 11 games. I don't expect too much performance difference, if any, when the drivers tested today will move from beta to stable, so have that in mind. And that's it for this video. If you found the video helpful or liked it, hit the thumbs up button, consider subscribing to the channel, and let me know in the comment section below what made you choose your current GPU. I hope to see you all in the next one, so take care.